Hi there, Tomás O'Leary here from Mossart. I'm here today to give you an outline of the journey that we've undertaken in Ireland, working closely with the UNECE to try and reduce the carbon emissions from buildings. I hope you find this interesting, and perhaps you might consider joining the UNECE network of centres of excellence to try and have a similar experience and journey that we've had in Ireland. Very recently, the Irish government has published the Irish Climate Action Bill, which is a really groundbreaking piece of legislation. And it has many targets in it, some very concrete and very tangible, one of which is to complete 500,000 deep retrofits by 2030. Now, just to give you some sense of context, there is only 5 million people living in Ireland, so 500,000 deep retrofits is really quite a challenge. So how are we going to meet this challenge of 500,000 retrofits? One of the things that we're going to need is to train a lot of construction workers in the methods and science and practice of deep retrofits and nearly zero energy buildings. And we're about to embark on a really exciting national education program, which is going to upskill thousands and thousands of construction workers. Even though Ireland is a small country, relatively speaking, we're actually going to have 5 exemplary training centres across the country. You can see them on the map here. One in the southeast, which was the very first one in the Midlands, one in the northwest, one in the west, and one in the south. So what will happen is that each of these training centres will be easily accessible no matter where you live in Ireland. Looking at one of these training centres in the Midlands, by Laois Offaly Education Training Board, you can see here the fantastic facilities that have been built. In this particular training facility, we've built an entire bungalow inside in the training space, and you can see the learners here learning how to apply external wall insulation. We fully expect that many hundreds of thousands of houses in Ireland will need to be externally insulated. And so we're now creating a whole generation of construction workers that can do that to the very highest standards. Another shot here of some very enthusiastic looking learners who are learning about floor insulation in this case. And you can see they're all holding different materials. And what's interesting is, depending on the material that you use for floor insulation, you can have a super skinny amount of insulation needed, or a little bit more, or even quite deep insulation. But all of these actually achieve the same view value. So we're also teaching the learners about the building science involved in deep retrofitting. Also in the training centre, we have this wonderful roof rig, and it's very important that people learn how to insulate roofs correctly, because that's where we lose a lot of heat. We also have a lot of mould in existing buildings, and this is principally due to a poor connection between the roof insulation and the wall insulation. So that's a big focus in this training programme. Also in roofs, you have problems with drafty attic hatches, cold water storage tanks not being insulated properly, recessed downlighters that are not air sealed, and lots of other problems. So the roof rig here in this training centre gives people a really good opportunity to learn about what are the problems and how to fix them. So let's see, where did this incredible journey in Ireland all begin? A couple of years ago, we started to work very closely with the UNECE office, and particularly Scott Foster. And Scott and the UNECE have demonstrated really amazing commitment to moving the dial on the energy efficiency of buildings in Ireland. You can see Scott here at the very first training centre that was developed by Waterford and Wexford Education and Training Board. And Scott was really, I think, quite impressed with the facilities that were set up there. As a further example of the UNECE's commitment to energy efficiency of buildings, you can see the director here, Scott Foster, actually getting some hands-on training in airtightness and vapour control from one of our teachers. I hope this presentation has given you a good insight into how, at least in Ireland, we're actually trying to mobilise a highly educated and skilled workforce. And a lot of this was truly inspired by the UNECE and their work in order to move the dial on energy efficiency of buildings. So what I would say to you is, why not join the network? Don't suffer in silence. Don't have to reinvent the wheel all over. We've gone through the pain of that so that you won't have to. The idea of the network is that we can all share knowledge from each other. You can come to Ireland, you can see what we've done, you can take that back home and adjust it for your climate, for your building types and so forth. But the key thing about the network of centres of excellence is that we all share our knowledge so that we can rapidly accelerate to dramatically reduce the carbon emissions from buildings. So where might you go next? I suggest that you reach out to these wonderful people listed here. These people, including myself, have been very involved in the network of Centres of Excellence from the very outset, and are also involved in the promotion and expansion and growth and encouragement of others to join the network as well. So we hope we can hear from you soon. Please do reach out, and we look forward to growing the network rapidly over the next few years.